All right, good evening. Welcome to IEPPV's July image competition. My name is Brad Toms. I'm the image comp chair. And I want to welcome our judges, Steve Brazel, Dwayne Murphy, and Lisa Craig. Thank you guys for helping us out this month. If we could start with Steve, maybe Steve, you could say a few words about yourself and introduce yourself and tell everybody about yourself.
Okay, so my name is Steve Brazel. I am a live music slash concert photographer. I also am the host of a podcast called Behind the Shot. I'm based in Southern California, and I'm a longtime connection to IEPPV.
Thank you, Steve. Dwayne, could you introduce yourself, please?
My name's Dwayne Murphy. I have a brick and mortar studio located in Santa Ana, California, where I focus primarily on pets, beauty, and a little bit of commercial work here and there. We'll keep it short and simple.
Thank you, Dwayne. And Lisa Craig, would you please introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Lisa Craig, and I'm in Denver, Colorado. And I focus on some commercial photography, branding photography, and portraiture primarily.
Perfect. And thank you very much, judges. Kim Shapiro is my co-partner tonight, and she is going to be running the actual image comp, and I'll be here to assist with her. So, Kim?
So just for people who don't know, we have two separate divisions in IEPPV. Our first division is the master division. Our second division is the regular division. So they're the same categories in both divisions, but the scoring is a little bit tougher for those in the master category because the people in that category have either achieved their masters or craftsman, or they put in awesome images, their scores have been high, and they voluntarily decided they want to compete at the higher level. And then we have the regular division, which allows our members, especially newer members, to come in and not have to compete against the people who have the master's degrees. Slightly less intimidating. It's still a little intimidating sometimes to enter a competition, but remember, the goal of our competitions is to give people constructive criticism so they can improve their craft and do better at what they do and make their images better. So we're going to start tonight with our master's division. We have a total of 52 images tonight in both divisions. So tonight we're going to start with the master's division. Our first category is master commercial, and the first image is a quiet place. A quiet place. Okay, hold on. Why did that not come up?
It did for us.
Okay.
There it is.
There we go. Score is 83. Lisa.
Yeah, I really enjoy this image. It's everything about it is keeping me inside the image, and the outer presentation is not detracting. I love the brightness of some of those cubes, which just creates interest. And so I think the style that was used in this was very well done. I just love the cleanness of this photo. So well done.
Kim, can I make one comment?
Absolutely.
So again, I'm going to echo everything that she said. First of all, your lines are straight. And kudos for that. I love the reflection in the floor. I love the placement of just enough carpet. I like the fact the book is slightly cut. There is one thing I think would actually elevate this up, since it got an 83. And by the way, I am at an 83. The one thing that would have brought this up to me is a little teeny thing. The shadow on the wall from the lamp. I don't mind the shadow on the wall from the actual lamp shade, but there's a one line going down the wall. And if you were to remove that, it's faint at the top of it anyway because it's so close to the bulb. If you were to remove it down across the baseboard, I think that would leave those leading lines to me to that bookcase much stronger.
Thank you. I'm sure the maker appreciates that.
Sorry, Kim, I got one quick one as well.
Go ahead.
The one thing that I'm noticing is the line that runs between the bookcase and the floor may not be perfectly horizontal. And I would suggest to the maker that they drop their camera literally 2 to 3 millimeters from where they're at, because you've created a triangle, and this is super nitpicky, between the ottoman and the chair, where the baseboard of the bookcase itself doesn't quite come down below the top of the ottoman. It creates a minor distraction.
Thank you. That is the only image in our commercial category. Our next master division category is master illustrative, and the first image in this category is paddling out. Paddling out. Score is 79. Steve, if you could comment.
Okay, so I'm an 80 on this image, and boy, do I have so much to say about this. First of all, I love what you did here. Like, really, honestly, this is creative stuff. This is the way I wish my mind worked. What held me at an 80 is a couple of very, very minor things. This is a good example of when specular highlights can be used and not worry about the clipping, except there's some really big ones in here. And those specular highlights at the top of this are just super distracting. Like, my eye keeps going to that really large one top right. Down at the bottom right, I understand that these are probably, based on the way those sun rays are coming through in the bubbles, that these are probably just in the water, but the large spots at the bottom look like sensor spots, and I would clean those up. And the biggest thing for me that held me from going to an 80, and the 80 was a stretch, is I love the hand. I'm guessing it's a foot on the other side. I would take that out. I don't need to see it. I can't even be sure it's a foot from where I'm sitting. I mean, I could zoom in and look, but the normal viewer is not going to be able to zoom in. If you took that out and moved the entire thing to get that hand more towards the right rule of thirds, that would give me more forward momentum as well for this board. And I just think the whole thing would pull me into this image in a more strong way.
Thank you. Next image, still in the master illustrative category, is well worn. Well worn. Score is a 78. Dwayne.
I scored the image a 77. I really want to like this image. There's a lot of cool things working with it, but it falls short for me. Starting with impact, we've got a very strong leading line that starts from near dead center, and then you have to find our subject who is walking. So it creates a little bit of confusion about what our subject really is. Is it the bridge? Is it the person walking away? The title takes us back to, am I supposed to be looking at all of the pits and broken concrete on the bridge itself? On the technical side, on the right-hand side of the bridge, we have a number of posts coming out. Looks like where a cable may have once been. Those posts, however this was shot, may have been a sort of infrared or black and white conversion. They fall black on black, and I see no separation between the posts and the black sand. As I begin to look through the image itself, my mind then begins to struggle with, what is it I'm looking at each point of the image? Is it black sand out of water? Am I looking at water? In some places it's smooth, other places it's ripply, where we've got some cool reflections. There's a lot going on in my mind that is trying to decipher what the photograph is about versus being able to enjoy it. On the bright side, the blue tones help the image. It's a cool concept. I might even like to see that curve. If you pointed your camera slightly to the right more, it would keep the curve to the left a little more. And I think it would create a little more interest in the photograph overall. Good job and thank you.
Kim, can I say something quick?
Absolutely.
I'm a 78 at this image. I love what you're doing here. I love the idea that you had. But for me, almost everything that Dwayne said, which I agree with, a lot of it could be fixed just by what I would call a better black and white conversion. You focused on that old walkway, which is great, but the blacks are really muddy in a lot of places. It's too much black, and I think that character down at the end would come out more. Secondly, and the last thing is where you're entering the frame at the bottom, that walkway is cut off on the left and not on the right. It needs to be for balance, and that leading line and that curve, it needs to start centered at the bottom, or even better yet, a little cut off on the other side with room on the left, I think would lead you into that curve bigger. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And judges, I did forget to say, when you are going to make comments, if you could first say what your individual score was, that would be appreciative.
My apologies. I think my score was 77.
No problem. Next, the last image in the master illustrative category is elegance. Elegance.
I have a question.
Okay.
How do I clear what I was about to enter? I've made a mistake.
Okay, I'm going to clear the scores, and if everyone could please rescore.
Thank you. Thank you.
If your score doesn't clear, Lisa, you can also hit the clear button.
Yeah, I had lost the clear button on that, but it did clear, so I'm good. Thank you.
The score for this image is 87. Lisa.
I scored this at 93. For me, this image had just a huge amount of impact. I really enjoyed everything about it. I do like the presentation. I like just the capture itself, the positioning. I just love this image, and I thought it was, clear and just really a great image. I just want to keep looking at it. So well done.
Lisa, if you want to keep looking at it, I think I underscored this, and I'd like to. You might want to either put out a challenge, or I'll challenge my own score so I can raise it.
Okay, so Dwayne, if you're
Okay.
going to challenge, go ahead.
Yeah, this came up. I fell in love with it. Took me a moment to figure out what I was really looking at. Obviously, we have aircraft, and I wasn't sure if it was the same aircraft nicely cloned or if it was an actual show, because everything is so perfect. And as I keep looking at it, I made a mistake on my score of 84, and I definitely want to raise that to an 87.
Steve, do you have any comments?
So I'm an 84 on this. I can definitely go up. There's a couple things that help me, but I love this image. This image is definitely deserving of high 80s or a 90. And I probably should not have lost that much because of this. I love the double white matte like you would do on a wall. That works great when you have dark frame around it. You normally don't do a white frame with double white matte. And so to me, that's a little overpowering on the outside of the image. That's minor. For me, really what held me back was the crop. I really wish there was a little less blue at the top and a little bit on the left, so that the flight group was farther left in the image, giving me more feeling of movement. But again, these are all minor. I'm definitely going to go up, and I'll just say it up front. I'm probably going to get way closer to a 90.
Lisa, any comments?
Well, the one thing that I do want to add, I appreciate your comment, Steve, about the positioning of the composition. But I think that they've really used the rule of thirds very well, because you've got all of the airplanes coming across at that top third line with, more of the blank space in the lower part. And also, it's most of the image is, on 2/3 to the right. And so I think that that's actually what draws me into the photo, is this exact positioning.
Okay, any rebuttal, Dwayne?
No,
I am totally good with the cropping of the image. I am going to suggest to the maker that they do, I am assuming it's cloud pattern that is above the wings, but there is something funky going on with the sky where it looks like it's a little bit spotty in the top 1 inch of the image. But I am going to be scoring, like I said, an easy 87.
All right, if you guys could rescore, please. The new score is an 89. Congratulations to the maker. The next category will be Master Division Landscape, and our first image is Outback Storm. Outback Storm. Score is 80. Steve.
so I'm an 83 on this, and I'm probably high. I think I mainly did the 83 because I just appreciate that the maker got a double lightning strike, or didn't. I mean, I suppose they could have made it up, but what held me back, and the more I think about it, actually, as I'm talking, I overscored this. I probably should have been an 80. There's a couple of things. One, the processing on this image is just off. There's something very weird going in between the branches of the tree, in the one gap right in the middle of the tree, that's really blotchy on the sky. Very not natural. Hard edged lines in the sky. I'm having a problem with that. There's also a halo above the ground on the right hand side. I'm tempted to challenge myself and score down, but I'm going to be nice and I'm not going to do it. But along those the brush on the right side, there is a halo going across there. There's something with the processing in here that's not clicking for me. But I'm at an 83. I think if you dealt a defter hand at some of your color control and some of your processing, I think this image could be really strong. Also, I kind of wish the tree wasn't there, although it's nice to have the element. Either more of it or none of it would be nice. And I'm wondering if you could have moved left. I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to leave my 83, but I'm borderline challenging myself.
Thank you. Next, still in the master landscape, is Majestic Vista. Majestic Vista. Score is 84. Dwayne.
I scored this an 83.
I'm going to challenge just so everybody knows ahead of time.
Okay.
You want to challenge now, Steve?
Yep.
Okay, Steve, why don't you go ahead
wanna-
with the challenge, and then Dwayne and Lisa will still be able to make comments.
You said it was an 84, right?
Correct, 84.
Okay. I'm at an 87 on this image. And if you had called on me, the first thing that I would have said was, this is black and white processing. The sky is dealt with politely. It's not overcooked. There are no halos around the edges. The processing is even amongst everything. I can picture a histogram on this from 0 to 255 looking fantastic. This is really, really well processed. Again, really kind of wish that it wasn't just white on the outside, but I guess my monitor edge kind of works as a frame. I'd hang this on my wall. I'm at an 87.
Dwayne,
I scored this an 83. I'm happy to move a couple of points. I don't believe in this case the white mat does it justice. So we've been looking at this for well over a minute, and it's literally taken me this long to realize that there's actually a lightning bolt on the center column. The white mat keeps pulling me out from the image itself to enjoy it. I believe the black and white processing is fantastic. This is definitely worthy of a merit. But I have to fight to stay inside. The blacks look amazing. And when I can block out the distraction of the mat, and it's not even the fact that it's a white mat, but there is too much processing in this case on the mat itself. We have drop shadows on the top and the right. Then we have a 3D effect trying to make the photograph itself look like it is a float mount. This particular photograph does not need that much processing in its final product. It stands fantastically on its own with a simple mat. I do agree with what Steve is talking about in having 0 to 255 in blacks. There is detail everywhere throughout the image. I love how the large mountain here is framed within the light of the of the cloud, sorry. And I kind of want to be able to enjoy a little bit more of what's happening with the clouds over that center mountain where the clouds are even breaking up. Those are my comments and why I scored it as I did. I'll be happy to move a couple of points.
Lisa, any comments?
Yeah, I mean, I would echo the issue around that white border for sure. That kept pulling me out of the image. It took me a while to really see into the image. And in addition to what's already been said, I think what I scored it at an 81. And I think what kept kind of niggling my mind is off on the right-hand side where the sky and the mountain kind of come to that edge. There is something sticking out and I can't figure out what it is. And I keep trying to figure out what it is. It's like, it looks like a windmill or something, but I can't really tell. And there's a cloud right behind it. And so those two things are competing for my attention. I would probably either crop in and just drop that little bit of the edge off. And then I have the same issue on the left side. There's just a little bit of these the clouds kind of right along that horizon line where they poke in. And I would just crop that in because that would just, if you crop that in maybe 3/4 of an inch, you'd lose that part. And then it helps to keep you in the image where all the drama is instead of whatever that extra little noise is. And I would agree that I think this could benefit from a little less on the presentation and really let the focal point be the image. I mean, I still believe that this is merit worthy, which is why I scored it an 81. I wanted it to be, solid merit, but I think with just a few more improvements, you could really elevate the score more because the processing is very well done.
Okay, Steve, any rebuttal?
Yeah, just a real quick one because I know we're going long here. First of all, I understand cropping the little dark cloud on the left. On the right-hand side, I wouldn't, because where this bell rock type style hill is, rule of thirds, everything lines up kind of where I want it composition wise, and I love that. But what's interesting to me is everybody said, yeah, the image itself, other than what Lisa mentioned on the crops on the left and right, the image itself is really well done. It's the matting. And I did mention at the beginning, again, we have another one, clearly same photographer doing the three-dimensional, float mount, which the photographer should take away from this. Stop doing the three-dimensional pure white float mount when you have a darker image, because my eye goes to the brightest spot. However, there are 12 points in a mirrored image. Presentation is one. The image that is floating in the middle is fantastic. And the image that is floating in the middle is worth a very high score. The one element of presentation which failed here should not pull it down below an 85. I'm at an 87. I'll stay at an 87.
Okay, judges, if you could rescore.
What? Scorekeeper not ready. Hold on. There we go. Try again. Still says scorekeeper not ready.
Hold on. It should be there. There you go.
Done.
Score is now an 85.
Thank you, guys.
Our next image, still in the master landscape, is Balboa Sunset. Balboa Sunset. Score is 84. Lisa.
I scored this at an 87. I really enjoyed this image. I think the maker did a beautiful job, just, with the overall capture, and the color harmony is well done. I think what kept me from going just even a little bit higher would have been down in the lower two corners. It just sort of, if you just lighten it just a hint, it would just show me better the definition of the edge a little bit more. But everything else on this image, I think, is clear. I just really enjoyed it and felt highly of it. Great job.
Lisa, really quick.
Go ahead.
I scored the image an 80. We're in the masters category. And in the bottom right corner, I don't know what's going on there, if it's the beach or if it is a technical problem in how the photograph and the matting come together. And this photograph is actually just dropped onto the mat itself without any sort of key line. In the masters category, I can't really consider the presentation I'm looking at as being a final presentation.
Are you doing a challenge on that?
No, I'm not asking
actually,
to change the score.
Actually do, because I'm going to lower my score. Because there's
Okay.
also at the very top, I just noticed it, but there is a lighter line going full width across the top of about 2 pixels, where it doesn't match the clouds or anything.
Okay, so Steve, I'm considering you to do the challenge. So
Yeah.
any other
that's fine.
comments? Other than your line?
Nope.
Dwayne, any other comments?
No, not at this point.
And that
Lisa?
bottom corner too.
I don't have any other comments.
Final rebuttal, Steve?
Nope. Nope.
Okay, judges, if you can, let me put it up to rescore. If you can rescore, please. The new score is an 80.
And for the maker, the takeaway here is attention to detail.
Still in the master landscape category, we have just leave footprints. Just leave footprints. Score is an 80. Steve,
So I'm at an 80 on this one, so I finally got one right. So I feel good. I'm just going to be quiet from there. No, I'm kidding. To the maker, look, I like the idea of this straight down overhead shot. I don't think it's done enough. I think too many people, when they get in the air, want to do some kind of point of view and angle, and just shooting straight down is a really, really neat touch. I like the line going in the sand on the three colors Neapolitan look of sand, the line of almost like footprints at the bottom right coming through, like the shadow at the top right. The shadow at the top very corner, though, has a little point pointing out that I'm sure it's natural from the rocks, but it doesn't look like it blends with the shot from this angle. That moment frozen in time looks different, even though it is clearly a shadow from that rock formation. Secondly, and this was the biggest thing, I thought the image had been loaded in the system wrong. I thought the image was supposed to be portrait orientation because as a human, we are used to looking at a water line in front of us. And so the sand at the bottom and the water in the top was what I thought this was supposed to be. Clearly it wasn't. It was intended to be this way. That is really disorienting. You have the right as a maker to do that. Me as a viewer, it's not just a fun uncomfortable. I still feel like the image should be turned vertical. So I'm at an 80.
thank you.
I have one more point, if I may.
Yes, just please keep it quick.
Okay. Looking at the shadows at the rocks in the upper right, they don't match the direction of the shadow in the upper right corner. It may be natural, but it's really confusing to me, and it makes me think that it's been post-processed.
Exactly. Same thing I'm talking about.
Thank you. Still in the master landscape, and our last image in the master landscape is Oregon Coast. Oregon Coast. Score is 80. Dwayne,
I was probably the bad guy on this. I scored this a 77. I really, really want to like this image. But I believe that it's either been shot too late in the day, or the maker can do a little more post-production to bring up the shadow values, because you've really got to look through the rocks to find any detail there. As you look closely, you can see ridges, but you have to work to find them. The matting in this case is uncomfortable being pushed that far out to the edges. And it just kind of falls a little bit flat because I don't see a direction of light. That's why I scored it a 77 in the masters category. I may have been a couple points nicer in the lower division or entry division.
thank you. Our next category in the master division is nature. And our first image in the nature category is preparing for landing. Preparing for landing. Score is an 84. Lisa,
Yeah, I love just the beauty of this bird. This is really great capture of the bird and the detail and the feathers and how the light comes through the feathers. I think you did a really great job there. The background is not distracting. I enjoyed that. I did. I probably would have gone just a hint higher on my score, which was an 85. If the presentation was not just all white, and if the presentation was a little bit different, but I'm not going to belabor that since we've already talked about that before. I think the detail really on the bird, and I just love how you captured, you know, the toes, the fork in the toes, whatever you call that. I'm not a bird photographer, but I really do appreciate this image. So well done. I scored it an 85.
Can I make one sentence type of a comment, Kim?
Yes, as long as it's quick.
I'm at an 80. I'm at an 83. The back of the bird's butt area, if you look at the edge of that, it's the 83 was a push. It's a really harsh line there, as though you processed the background and didn't blend it into the bird well. And there's a gray line running up the right-hand side of the photo itself.
Thank you. The next and last image in our master nature division category is competition. Competition. Score is an 80. Steve.
Okay, so I am at a 78 on this one. I had to look at my own score because I so want to like this. Again, I think the position of the birds could be worked on with a crop. I wish that they were just a little more left of center. I'm nitpicking on that. The reason I'm at a 78 on this is way over sharpened, like super over sharpened. I can't merit an image that looks this artifact to me. So I'm at a 78, and to the maker again, I'm just going to say it, even though we've harped on it, take away from this that when I have a blue sky with these beautiful birds, and I am being literally blinded by the amount of white. So I highly recommend, look, do the intermatte white and something else on the outside, however you want to do it. That much pure white is really, really difficult, or almost pure white. But if you look at the leaves, what am I talking about? The feathers on these birds, they are artifacty beyond belief to me. So don't go that far. I'd rather it be less sharp than more.
Continuing, we are now in the master division photojournalism category, middle of nowhere. Middle of nowhere.
What was the category again?
Photojournalism.
And is this masters?
Yes, it is. Score is 77. Dwayne.
Oddly enough, I scored this image a 77. So master's division, photojournalism. We're in the middle of nowhere, but that's not exactly a story. I want to know why we're in the middle of nowhere. I want to see something going on. In this case, we found a road sign that's apparently nowhere near a town. Let's move on to the technical. So in the bottom right, we have a barrier that is a distraction. It doesn't help the photograph. Take a step to the left and get rid of that. When you go through the 12 elements, we're looking for impact. And at least in my case, as much as I love infrared, this doesn't have impact to me. When we get into the choice of colors, the overall color palette, blue and browns are not exactly complementary. The strongest part of this particular photograph, in my opinion, is the grass is growing on the bottom third, running up about halfway through the image. I scored this a 77. Those are the reasons why.
Thank you. Our next.
Can I ask,
category-
can I ask a question of you, Kim?
Yes.
And this may be something for offline, but can you do selective color like this for photojournalism?
You're not supposed to, no. You can adjust, you can have minor color adjustments, but I don't think that,
Right.
I don't know that this is considered minor.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
One more thing, if I can just add on this image that I think I'm confused about, and that is that the points on the sign, they kind of don't line up. Like, I know they wouldn't be, because the perspective, they may not be exactly perfect, but they're really off. And especially the angle of the roadhouse and that top one, I think that there's a perspective issue on that roadhouse. I mean, I think it gives me a question mark in my mind, and I'm like, I've been looking at it trying to figure it out. So it's a little bit of an illusion. So I would just,
I don't think they are lined up, but
yeah, I would just have the maker should look at that a little bit more. See if there's anything that could be done about that, but I scored it a 77 as well.
Okay, our next category in the master division is portrait. Our first image in the portrait category, master division, is the Queen of Roses. The Queen of Roses. Score is 77. Lisa?
I scored this 78, and I think when I think about Queen of Roses, I'm looking for more roses instead of just the one, and that may be a little bit nitpicky, so I'm gonna just move on. I think I'm a little confused about why her hair is out. If if there's wind and that's what's blowing the petals around, I'm unclear about the scene. And I think I'm a little unclear about why like her eyes look more like she's glaring versus, when you're holding a rose, I think there's just a different level of softness to it. So I'm kind of missing some of that emotion. It doesn't match with what I'm seeing, with what I would think you would see with the softness of a flower.
Thank you. Our next image in the master portrait category is funny story. Funny story. Score is 82. Steve?
so I'm an 81 on this image, and I wanted to go so much higher. I mean, really, honestly, to the maker, I commend you. This is really, really a beautiful concept to have the one kid kneeling down, reading a book to, I'm assuming, a younger sibling that's, got the cute outfit on and holding the stuffed animal. So cool. Couple of things that I think would take this to the next level. Number one is the facial expression on the guy reading. Doesn't look like he's reading at all, actually. It looks like he just ate a sour gummy worm. So get his eyes open, a little bit of lip purse, less almost like he's blowing a trumpet feel to it. Get him to relax a little bit is what I would say. The other thing is if you look at the way he's holding the book, on his right hand, his middle finger and other finger are curled down, and the other hand, the left hand, the fingers come out of that knuckle. That's a little weird. I'd rather see those fingers. And the child at the left, the way his head blends into the background, specifically at the forehead, right above the forehead, you can see the processing there. I'm at an 81 on this image. I really wanted to go higher, but if I can see your processing, that's going to affect what I do. But really, honestly, you're onto something here. Stay with this idea.
Thank you. Continuing in the Master Division portrait category, we have daydreaming. Daydreaming. Score is 82. Dwayne.
I scored this photograph an 80 and really, really want to go higher. Again, cool creative idea. The processing needs to be revisited in several areas. Let's start with the edge, the front edge on camera left of the barrel. It doesn't blend in, and in a couple of locations separates from the background. Then the child is wearing a cool set of overalls. And when you look at center body halfway down about where the bottom of his rib cage is, we've got clear lines showing the detail of the fabric. You move up between the shadow area and where the ridges are at the top of his coveralls, and everything falls to mush. I don't understand that because it's not falling out of the field of focus. I also personally believe that this is a situation where less depth of field would actually help. And what I mean specifically by that is this and the last couple of photographs. The only area that has been in sharp focus is the subject itself, which technically is correct. But the front of the photograph, the entry point of this portrait, is so far blown out of focus, and I don't believe it's a natural bokeh, that it's a distraction and not helping bring us into the photograph. If this was a nature landscape, we'd be calling it a roadblock. And then in different areas around the child where he blends into the background, it doesn't look like it's done naturally. So again, the processing is the killer in this particular photograph. I scored it an 80. I wanted to acknowledge the maker. And with those issues fixed, I think this type of photograph portrait could go much, much higher.
Kim, quick comment.
Very brief, please.
Okay. All I want to say to the maker is let your subject and composition speak, because this to me is also way over sharpened. The barrel's over sharpened. The hair, edge of the hair to the background's over sharpened, plus everything Dwayne said. But your composition, your concept are so good. I think you're overdoing a lot of things. Let your composition and subject speak.
Thank you. And our final image in the Master Portrait Division is Please Stop the Time. Please stop the time. Score is 80. Lisa.
I I love little boys who just you just are captivated by this little boy. And I like the story of it. I think I want to be drawn more into the image. And so I think the lack of presentation on that is kind of holding me back because I feel like I'm just not in the picture or looking in. I just feel kind of superficial on that end. I think for me, maybe a little bit on the side of his face, on the right side of his face, looks a little bit more unsharp, where his nose looks a little bit more sharp. So I scored it an 81, but I think really the reason I did that was simply because I want to be drawn more into this photo, and I'm just not there. I think that's
Thank you.
that's all I'm gonna say.
Okay. That concludes our master division, but we do have 2 images for review. They're both in the master illustrative category. The first one is Paddling Out. Original score was a 79. Judges, if you'd like it to stay the same, please score 79. If you'd like it to come up to be an 80, score it an 80. It remains the same. And our last image for review in the master category, same division, same category, master illustrative, well worn with an original score of 78. And it remains the same. We are now going to be moving into our regular division. The first category in the regular division will be the illustrative category. And our first image is Old Souls Stand Guard in the Mist. Old Souls Stand Guard in the Mist. Score is an 80. Steve.
So I'm at a 79 on this one. To the maker, congrats on the merit. What held me back from meriting this image? Look, I love, again, tonight it seems to be a theme. I'm really liking a lot of the concepts that people are coming up with. My thing with this image holding me back, and I understand the hazy sky and the processing you've done on the sky I actually like, but the image in and of itself, lighting wise, is flat. The shadows are there. I'm not sure if you've lightened them or if you chose to go with a washed out look, which it may be, but it's a cemetery and I don't see it as a light and happy place. Some more contrast in this and something to add a little three-dimensional depth to me would really pull me in to this image and make me feel the story that you're trying to tell me. I think, again, that you're processing on the sky and everything, and I even like what you did on the ground and on the tombstones themselves, but I just think you need a little bit more contrast. As an example, at the bottom of the image, the first headstone is a cross, and the one to the right of that, there's almost like a cloud in front of it that's on its own. I don't think that's part of the fog. I guess it could be, but I need to see that and know that it's not just an artifact in the shot. So for me, it just needs a little bit more level adjustment or curve adjustment.
Thank you.
79.
Continuing in the regular division illustrative category is Threadbare. Threadbare. Score is a 78. Dwayne.
I scored this an 80. We're in the regular category. So if this is going to move on, it definitely needs some work to it, but I scored it looking at it as an art piece. The light coming up from the bottom, it's a bit heavy in a few places. The shot itself is unique. The title, the layout of the photograph itself created enough interest where I was willing to invest and figure out that I am looking at an early model tire, still a spoke wheel, still some rubber on it, that it was at one point a usable car tire. So I wanted to reward the maker for creativity. Technically, a little more work in balancing out the shadows. The center line is a bit hot where the threads are, but not quite blown out. That's why I scored it as I did.
Thank you. And
Can
our
I just say one thing on this one?
yes, please keep it brief.
Yeah, I think my question, now that you mention it, Dwayne, I do see that it could be a tire. I thought it was the underside of a chair and this was the outer edge of fringe. And I just wasn't sure what it was. So I think I had a hard time with that and I scored it at a 78 as a result.
Thank you. So our last image in the regular division illustrative category is National Gallery of Art. National Gallery of Art. Score is 79. Steve, since you got it right, how about if you comment?
I am a 79 on this image. First of all, I'm going to start with the presentation because we've talked about that a lot. This is a perfect example of when a black mat on a black and white image lets me see the image, not the mat. The white key line separates it. I'd argue it's a little bit thick, but I'm okay with it. The image itself, there's a couple of things. First of all, in the bottom left-hand corner of the image, there is on the black tile a bright spot. Could that be a reflection of a light because you see that elsewhere? Maybe, but right on the edge of the image, it makes me think that it's a failure of the crop or the processing. The lights at the top, this is illustrative. You can edit this image. Those lights at the top are super distracting, right? Normally, as a human standing in here, I'd see the gallery, but in this perspective, those lights are really drawing me because they're shining right at me. Your shadow use here could come up. I know what these look like, these pillars, and they're gorgeous and they have an immense amount of detail, as you can see on the right. But on the bottom of all of them and on the left-hand side of all of them, they're a little blocked up on your shadows. So for me, what I would say would take you to the next level is fix those little imperfections, but more importantly, think what you saw when you were there, the amount of detail you saw, and convey that to the viewer. You might even choose a different point of attack. I understand what you did with the statue being centered on the pole. I actually think that was a mistake because the statue doesn't fit on that pillar. And the statue behind it in the little alcove, I'm seeing a little bit of the top and bottom. I'd almost rather be in a position where I don't see any of the one behind, and maybe that statue was against white, a frame within a frame, something like that. Start thinking about that kind of compositional structure. 79.
Thank you. We have two images for review in this category. The first one, again, this is the regular illustrative category, threadbare with an original score of 78. 79 makes it stay the same, 80 brings it to a merit. It stays the same, and the next one with an original score of 79, National Gallery of Art. It also stays the same. Our next category is regular division landscape. First image is United States Capitol. United States Capitol. Did it not change for you guys?
It's up.
Is it?
Yes.
It changed, yes.
Here. Refresh yours. There you go. Lisa, we're just waiting on your score.
I put it in here. Hang on, let me clear and I'll do it again. Maybe I didn't put it in. Maybe that was my other score. Sorry.
Okay. The score is 77. Dwayne,
I scored this image a 77. I appreciate the basic matting, but again, the white key line is a bit bright. So if you're going to do this on a black and white, a safer bet is to grab something that's going to be middle gray that will give you a little bit of separation, but is not noticeable. Time of day is, I'm going to say, in my opinion, wrong. It looks to be at about 10:30, 11 o'clock, judging by the shadows that's falling on the right side of the building, both in angle and in sharpness. Not much you can do to fix that. It's the time of day and a reason why we generally don't get amazing photographs middle of the day. I would like to see a little bit more headroom above the statue at the top of the Capitol building. I think it's a little bit tight. To the positive of this photograph, I think we've got most of the black and white 0 to 255 color gamut covered. The reflection is actually pretty cool, but if this is going to center on the reflection, come down even closer to the floor, because where the tiles are broken halfway between the building and the dome's reflection, it's hard to make out what it is we're looking at, so it looks very disjointed there. I scored this as 77, and that's why.
thank you. Next image, regular landscape is 2 Jack Lake. 2 Jack Lake. Score is 79. Lisa,
Yeah, I mean, I love the colors in this photo, and certainly the colors do have impact. What I think what caused me to score at a 78 was I felt like it was pretty hot in the middle, and then a lot more cool on the edges. So I think that was part of my issue there. And there's not a lot of detail at all on that stand of trees on the right. And I realize that's in shadow, but given the rest of the light on this, I would have expected to see a little bit more definition there. And there's really no presentation here. So this is, basically without a frame around it. So I scored it at a 78. I also think maybe it's a little over processed. Along the edges of that mountain peak are a little bit fuzzy. So that's why I scored it a 78.
Kim, quick thing.
very quick.
Yep. Along the edge of the tree, there's this weird halo again that could be natural haze, but it just has such a weird start and end to it. But if you look at the clouds and you look at the trees, I'm wondering if somebody did a ton of noise reduction on this image. But the mountain is still sharp, but the rest of it has a very painterly effect. I suppose it could be intentional, but I agree with Lisa. I think you overprocessed here. I'm at a 76.
Yeah, I think there's also some of that moray down in the water on the right-hand side near that stand of trees. Or it at least looks a little bit moray there.
Okay. Moving along in our regular division landscape category is Three Sisters at First Light. Three Sisters at First Light. Score is 77. Steve.
I got it right again. I gotta go to Vegas. So I find it hard to believe that this is first light. There's something very bright about this image. I don't know if maybe the maker decided that even at first light they wanted more fill in the shadows, but it's pretty evenly flat lit, which is interesting if the title is First Light. I do love the composition with the reflection. Reflection looks really nice. I don't think you need half of that sky in both the sky and the reflection. Make this a pano. Let me feel the breadth and width of this scene. On the left-hand side, I wouldn't let that one tree be so close to the edge. Cut just inside that so that the first tree isn't right on the edge. And on the right-hand side, I think you could also crop in so that the mountains weren't dead center, the three peaks. Crop more from the right, get the trees on the left and the mountains more to the right, bring it down and have a cinematic view. And I think that this would go way up. I'm a 77.
Thank you. Continuing in the regular division, landscape category is Sunset Waves. Sunset Waves. Score is 80. Dwayne.
I scored this a 77 and I really wanted to go higher. So we're full bleed. It's a tough call when the photograph isn't finished, but that's not why I held it back. I love the coloring. I love the motion of the waves. When you move up to the center of the photograph, come up to where the sun flare is, move about 1 inch to the right. I don't understand that spot. It looks like the maker's lens had a water spot on it and it wasn't cleaned off.
Or a brush stroke.
Entirely possible. In either case, it's noticeable. It makes me go, what the heck? And I can't rightfully merit that image. There's also a couple of dust spots off to the far left, or sorry, far right. Beautiful color tone. I think this image has the possibility of improving score with a little more work. Good capture. Let's look forward to seeing it again.
Thank you. Continuing on in regular division landscape, we have Dusk to Dawn on Mount Ijen. Dusk to Dawn on Mount Ijen.
Can you say that backwards 3 times, please?
No, I can't say it forward, and I'm probably butchering the name of some of these geographically titled places, so I'll just apologize to everybody for that now. I think that just means I have to travel more so that I can learn the pronunciation of these places by actually going and visiting all of them. I'll let my husband know that he better put more money in my travel budget. Score is 84. Lisa.
Okay, well, I went big on this one. I scored it at 89. I feel like I'm in a dream when I'm looking at this picture. I love the way the clouds are just, floating in there. I love I just love the creepiness of that tree. Um, I'm not quite sure what is going on with that light in that middle branch. Um, and I just kind of noticed that. I love the stars. To me, it has impact, and I like the color balance. So that's why I scored it at an 89.
Thank you. Continuing along, still in the landscape category, is Cavernifoss Waterfall. Cavernifoss Waterfall.
Could you spell the first couple letters, please?
Say that again?
Kim, could you give me the first 2 or 3 letters of the title, please?
Cavernifoss, it's Kvernufoss.
Okay.
Score is 78. Steve.
So I'm definitely probably the bad guy here. I'm a 75 on this image, and it's a waterfall. And I don't mean that as a negative. It's a beautiful waterfall, but it's a waterfall. If you're gonna photograph something like this, you have to tell me the story of what is so amazingly special about this waterfall. And in this particular case, I'm taken away from the waterfall. The water, and even the title wants me to go there. You dragged the shutter to blur that water, but then processed it to the point where the ripples that are in the front almost looked like little teeny whoop-de-doos on a motocross course. Like it looks like, what is it people used to do to their hair in the 70s with like a little wave iron that made their hair do this. It just, like a
Steve,
crimper.
you've
Yeah.
obviously crimped your hair too many times.
I know. You should have seen the perm. But because of that over processing and over sharpening on that water, I'm really drawn to those artifacts right there. And then there's no shaping. The light itself is just flat and there. Yes, there's shadows and yes, there's light, but the difference between those isn't shaping me, pulling me down that water. So here's what would fix it. I don't want to just tell you that without telling you what would make it stronger. And by the way, in the dead center right, there's a little bright spot on the land right there at the dead center right. Take that out. And it looks like based on the land, you wanted that kind of painterly effect again, except the big rock doesn't really have it. Do some dodging and burning. Draw me down that leading line river. Your composition's awesome. Draw me down that river. Make me go to that waterfall. I'm at a 75.
Thank you. Next in landscape is Full Moon Rising. Full Moon Rising. Score is 78. Dwayne.
I gave this a generous 80. We're in the regular division. I want to bring up some of the educational points. So, great idea in looking for a color to create the key line with. But I would also suggest to the maker, let's have another look at the color wheels, whether it's the primary colors or the CMYK, so you are picking complementary colors. The yellow and the brown in this case do not help each other. It creates conflict. Cool positioning of the moon, but as it's coming up, take a few steps backwards, wait a few more minutes, so that way the moon has time to rise in between the branches and it's not being knifed in the middle, if you will. That branch of the Joshua tree a few minutes later would have created a fantastic frame for the moon. Watch your processing. There is a red line that I'm now picking up that goes all the way around the moon, telling me it's been over processed. The color palette of the photograph itself is actually quite nice. So maybe try a brown and blue matte, or picking two different colors from the Joshua trees themselves to come up with your key line and your matting. I scored this an 80 because we're in the regular division. I think it's a pleasing image, and those are the things I would look at to make it even stronger.
Thank you. Next in landscape is Alien Land. Alien Land. Score is an 80. Lisa.
Yeah, so just as a side note, when I first saw the image, it reminded me of when you put candles in a Chianti bottle a long time ago and it would melt down because of the just the texture on that. I know that that's not true. It's just reminiscent of a memory. But I do really like the colors in this image, and I think that for me has a lot of impact. And it's curious about that, the edge of that cloud that's coming to the tip of the fountain, whatever that is. I'm not really sure. But I kind of like it. It's drawing my eyes, but again, it's making me want to look more and try to figure that out. What held me back, so I scored it at an 82, and I think the presentation could be stronger. I think that's a really narrow presentation, so I don't think that really does it justice. But there is some kind of a fog, or maybe it's over dodged right above where the light yellow part is in the center part of the magma, whatever that is. I really don't know what that is. I wish I did, but that just is drawing my eye, because I think that is a remnant of a dodge that maybe went a little awry. So that's what kind of kept me a little bit lower. I think if you make some modifications and adjust your presentation, I think you could bring that up, and maybe just tone down where that tornado is that's coming into the peak of that thing.
Kim, can I challenge, just because I want to hear everybody else?
Sure.
You challenged before me, but for a different reason, I have the feeling.
I scored this an 84, and I really want to hear what else Steve has to say, because of what I'm looking at and also the level that we're at. When this first came up, I believe I'm looking at some form of a geyser, first of all. So the cloud coming into the tip is actually water being spewed out. I am going to back that argument up, because if you go down to the third, where all of the yellow is, you can see water bouncing out of the yellow area where it's actually coming down, hitting the ground, and bouncing back up. I thought the top of this initially was over sharpened, but I believe, yeah, okay, it's been sharpened, but I believe a lot of that is actually the shine from the water that's blowing out of this geyser. As you look through the rocks, you'll see that there's areas that are flat, and especially when you get into the bottom right, you can clearly see water trails running down. you can see areas where the rock is flat and then also where it's shiny. As you get closer to the top, all of that is shiny. That's what I believe is causing the sharpness. The geyser is blowing up into the clouds and blending in, and then the water's falling down. I will concede that the matting, the presentation could be done better, but the colors in this all blend together amazingly cool. We have yellows and greens and oranges, which are generally difficult combinations to make blend nicely, especially when you have a bluish gray sky. It's a cool photograph to look at. I'm not saying it doesn't need more work, but I believe that this is definitely a strong meriting image, and I can't wait to hear what Mr. Brazel has to say.
Okay, so
Wait,
I
I'm
was
gonna
sit-
let Lisa go first. It's Lisa's turn.
okay, go ahead. Go ahead. She already
Well,
said hers though. She spoke.
I did. I already spoke, but I appreciate what Dwayne said to kind of clarify what this was. And I could buy that. Yeah, now that you've explained that. And I just agree that I love all the colors. I mean, it's quite a rainbow of colors that are just in really great harmony. Go ahead, Steve.
Okay, so I was debating, as Lisa was talking the first time, how many enemies do I want to make tonight? Because it scored an 80, and I was debating because I think I've done it once in my life. I was going to challenge it down. I'm at a 75, and hearing what the other judges have said, look, I totally understand what you're saying, and I understand that we're not in the masters category. That does not. There are still 12 points that we judge on, and this image is missing on a number of them and one really big one. So yes, this is no question. Now, that could be a cloud, but there's no question this is spouting water. It's running down. There's a pool of water in the middle, like right up in front of the trees. That's a pool of water. However, this photographer had the ability to make a landscape that had some good composition to it. That spout is way too close to the edge. On the left-hand side, we don't need the wooden dock at all. You could have cropped some of that out, right? So had it been just pivoted to the right, or just include more, leave the dock in, whatever, and give me more on the left so that that mountain isn't right on the edge, that peak isn't right on the edge. Those are the big things from a general point of view. However, I can't merit this image because what you're talking about around that peak is not glistening. If you start above, go to that big peak, left just above the mountain in the background, there is a white halo running all the way up, over, and then down the other side, almost as though it's a composite. Like I can see the sky processing separate from the mountain processing so much here that there is no question, there is no substitution for zooming in and getting those edges. If you look right at the right edge, where that little monolith hits the right edge, there's a big halo there that they could have zoomed in and fixed. They didn't, but more importantly, they did on the sky or on the mountain. And if I can see that processing, I don't want this maker, even if they're going to hate me, I don't want them to get the impression that they get a merit for bad Photoshop work, because you shouldn't. So I'm at a 75.
Dwayne, any rebuttals?
Two comments. So I have taken a look at, and I assume you're talking about where on the right-hand side it makes a V.
Yes.
And I'm confused because that line, and I will first of all say that it needs to be worked on, but I don't believe it's separation because it's curved and
It goes all the way up the edge though. There's a
finish.
white line about 2 pixels wide going all the way up that peak.
I see that going up to where the peak comes into the smooth portion of the geyser. I don't see it going.
The white line even goes in front of the geyser.
I don't have your monitor, Steve.
Okay, yeah, and it could be, but yeah,
I'm
it's
commenting on what I see. And
I
on
gotcha.
the left side, I do see the separation coming all the way down. It's technical work. I don't agree that it's to the point that you see it. I believe that in this level is worthy of a merit. Probably not an 85, and I will come down and give it an 83. But that's what I'm seeing in this image. I hope the judges will at least consider coming up a point or two, even if it doesn't come into the merit category.
Definitely.
Okay, judges, if you could rescore.
Kim, it's going to take me a moment as I think Steve sent me a bug and caused my print comp app to blow up.
Uh-oh.
Mine too. Mine did too. That was weird.
Can't wait to have this discussion after a couple of glasses of whiskey, Steve. Access. There we go. Judges keep it.
Oh, I was muted. This was a good image to challenge, though. Good chat.
The new score is an 81.
Thank you very much, judges.
The last and final image in the regular division landscape category is Neast Point. Neast Point. Score is an 84. Let's see. We'll have Steve comment since he got it right again.
So I'm at an 84 on this image because I get things right. So I'm gonna critique this image by saying I was just in Scotland and Ireland for 3 weeks, and I walked long ways to lighthouses to shoot them, and I suck at landscape photography. And man, I wish I'd gotten this image, an image like this. I love your positioning. I love your composition, where that peninsula or lighthouse comes out to the right rule of third, but then the other peak comes out. The one peak in the middle doesn't breach the edge of the horizon line, which is wonderful. Like, that makes the image to me, that you didn't breach that horizon line. The fact that you included enough clouds on the right day to get the cloud cover the way I want, and the fact that you included land at the bottom. Now I'm in an 84. I would have gone an 85 if you had about another quarter or a half an inch of land at the bottom right side. Like, if it wasn't just that sliver, if you just had made me feel like I wasn't going to fall in the water, and then I had something to stand on, I would have gone up. Plus, kind of the same thing, and I don't know it without seeing it, but I wish the two pieces of land connected. So the piece I'm standing on ends at the left bottom rule of third, and then above that, the peninsula comes out. But I don't see where they connect, and I kind of wish I did, but that's a minor thing. I'm at an 84.
Thank you. We're going to go through the images for review in the landscape category, and then we're going to take a short break. So again, if you want the images to stay the same, score 79. If you want them to go up, you'll score an 80. The first image for review in the landscape category is Two Jack Lake. Two Jack Lake. Original score was 79. Stays the same. Next is Cavernifoss Waterfall, original score of 78. Stays the same. Our next image for review, Full Moon Rising, with an original score of 78. Stays the same. That is where we're going to take a break. We're approximately halfway through our images. So judges, if you want to take like a 7-minute break.
Ooh.
Okay, we're going to resume. We are in the regular division. Our category will be the nature category. And our first image in the nature category is Straight as an Arrow. Straight as an Arrow. Score is 79, and we're going to start with Dwayne.
I scored this a 77. I really want to like the image. It falls a little bit short. As I'm looking at it, the bird itself has a great intense stare, but when we get into the body of the bird, we're lacking detail in the feathers, and the bird appears to be in gliding form. So I don't understand why the tips of the feathers are so far blown out, or they're just out of focus. I see, I'm not sure what's going on. If you look at the bird's bottom 2 toes, I don't understand why the area between those toes is so much brighter. Could be a processing issue. And I don't understand the color of the key line. The key line itself, to the maker's credit, is almost invisible, but it's got this glowing yellow neon. So maybe they grabbed the color out of the bird's eyes, and it's more of a distraction than it is a help. That's why I scored it as I did.
Thank you. Moving along in the nature category is waterproof. Waterproof. Score is, I have something in the way. Score is 78. Lisa.
Yeah, I think the thing I like the most about this image is where the water drops are, and on this, it looks like maybe it's a piece of white cheesecloth or something. I'm not really sure, but I like the water droplets on it. I think that what would make this better is a different crop, because I think the subject of the image is that white area with all those water drops. And so I would crop around that, and possibly change that. And I would also tone down that key line, just to be maybe a bit of a darker green, so that it's not quite so bright, because that does draw you away from it. But overall, I scored it a 79, so I was just under on the merit. So I think with just a few improvements, it could be better.
Thank you. The next image in the nature category is Hold on, I'm having a little problem here. Perched. Perched.
Oops, I need to redo my scoring. Hang on, let me see if I can fix it.
If you double tap the score number in the upper right, it'll clear it there as well.
Ah, thank you. Thank you. Got it.
Score is 81. Lisa.
I got the right score. Um, so I love the composition of this, with the branch and everything's kind of going in that same left direction. So I like that. I'm seeing a couple, what I think are dust bunnies, off to the left, about an inch or maybe an inch and a half from the bottom. And I started trying to wipe off my monitor, thinking it might be on my monitor. And I have this up in 2 screens, so that could be. So I didn't really count that off. There is a bluish hint on this key line, which I think, at least I see it on the right-hand side. I don't see it as much on the left for whatever reason. Overall, I like the bird. I think the bird, I can see details in the feathers. I might do, if I was going to make this a little bit better, I might do a little bit more dodging and burning just to bring out a little bit more detail on that. And maybe just see if you can tone down the background just a hint, because it's pretty bright. But otherwise, I scored it at an 81.
Kim, can I say something quick? Do we have time?
Briefly.
Okay, so for me, I love this image almost exactly as it is. I'm an 83. What would get me to an 85? Crop the open space on the right, crop a third of that out. The open space on the top, crop half of that down so that that guy is really in my face, and burn down the very end of that branch. Phenomenal job.
Thank you. Continuing in the nature category, we have peaceful morning. Peaceful morning. Score is 80. Steve.
So I probably overscored this just because I really love the bird's relationship to that reflection and how much detail I see in the tip of the wings and the reflection. Like, I really like what the maker did on this, and the bird and the reflection got me to an 83. But in reality, an 80 is an accurate score for this. Your presentation needs some work. If you're going to do this, it's taking up so much screen with just water that I understand you're trying to show an environmental portrait of this bird, but there's too much. I would, if you were going to leave this much, I need a thicker matting to bring that in. And the key line really is distracting. It doesn't blend in. You may have sampled it from somewhere on the bird, but I don't like the key line. It's actually drawing me out because I've got that different color in between those, the water and the matting that match. If you were to crop this again, I happen to be a panorama fan, so maybe that's just me, but he's moving. And this is a really nice bird in flight photo. If it were to be a little bit less on the top, a little teeny bit less on the bottom, I think it would again tighten it in and bring me into the motion. 83.
Thank you. Next in the nature category, sloppy poppies. Sloppy poppies. Score is 78. Dwayne.
I scored this an 80. I'm probably a bit generous on it. Wanted to reward the maker for getting creative and experimental. I would like to see what would make it stronger for me. What I would like to see is take this effect all the way through so it becomes a full abstract artistic print. We're somewhere between abstract and photorealistic, so I kind of keep bouncing between the two. Before you apply the effect, go in and take out the brown stems at the bottom left and to the far right about 1.5 inches away. And that way they don't become distractions. Apply the motion all the way through, and I think it'll become a really cool abstract. So good job on the creation and the idea of this.
Thank you. Next, and our final image in the landscape category in the regular division is I Am Groot. I Am Groot. This score is a 79. Lisa?
Yeah, I scored it a 79, and I think what I see is there's a lot of vignetting, and I'm assuming that the sun is behind Groot, in the white area. But I think what's really distracting is I just see a lot of white in the middle of the image, which does draw me in, but I think I would expect to see maybe a little bit more of a glow versus, just the brightness of that sun. And then the over vignetting that I really see in particular on the right side, up in that right corner in particular, is just distracting. So I scored it at a 79.
Thank you. In the nature division, we have a few images for review. The first image for review with an original score of 79 is Straight as an Arrow. Stays the same. Next, with a score of 78, Waterproof. Stays the same. Next image with an original score of 78 is Sloppy Poppies. Stays the same. And our last image for review, original score of 79, I Am Groot. And it stays the same. We are now going into the photographic artist category. And our first image in the photographic artist category is Impact Baseball. Impact Baseball. Score is 81. Let's have Steve comment on this one.
So I'm an 82 on this image. First of all, to the maker, just overall, this is really well done. Like your compositing here is really well done. I kind of wish that I could see the separate pieces rather than just the final, so that I knew exactly what you started with. What kept me at an 82, I'll be honest, the 82 I debated. I almost went with an 80, but the composite is so well done in so many places that I went 82, except the pants. There is a dark line all the way down the pants. The blend to the background is just not as clean, especially on the right leg, or not right leg, camera right leg. I wish that blended into the background a little bit better, but other than that, this is super well done, 82.
Thank you. Continuing in the photographic artist category, we now have Moonlit Lonely Tree. Moonlit Lonely Tree. Score is a 78. Dwayne.
I scored this an 82. Probably a touch generous. The matting in this case does not help. I'm really confused about how I'm even supposed to be looking at. When you look at the innermost part of the mat, it's separated from the photograph and the bevel of the mat. It's almost a 1/16 of an inch on the left. On the right-hand side, in the bottom right, it goes from black to gray. I don't understand what that is supposed to be. The key lines within the mat itself kind of separate and come together, again, causing confusion. Now moving on to the image itself, this is, to me, a really, really cool artistic composite. I love the floating tree. We have enough reflection of the tree in the lake. It's really cool to look at. Even the haze of the moon is pretty awesome. As you get around the outside of the haze, watch how it's blended in. As I'm looking at it a little closer, I can see a bit of a black circle that can be easily removed. The image itself, in this case, is what I'm judging it on, and I think the actual image is the strongest point why I scored it at 82. And if the matting is changed out, I could easily go higher.
Thank you. Still in the photographic artist category, our next image is Hill. Hill. Score is 83. Lisa?
Yeah, I like this image. I think it has a lot of impact. And I like where that chalk is just, popping out. I think her image, her face seems to be sharp. So I like all of that. I think maybe I would just go just a tiny bit darker on that key line, or just to bring that out a little bit, because there's such a blend that I hardly even notice the key line. And I think I just want a little bit more framing. But I scored it at an 83, certainly well deserving of a merit.
Thank you. Continuing in the photographic artist category, we have Majestic Golden Columbine. Majestic Golden Columbine. Score is 76. Steve.
So I'm a 75 on this image, and I really need to talk about the matting here for a second. It's like one we saw earlier that had a gradient in it. It wasn't even a shadow like a drop shadow. It was more like a gradient. This one has a drop shadow, but the drop shadow is an internal drop shadow, mainly at the bottom, a little bit at the sides, none at the top. And the visual I get from that is that this picture is coming apart at the bottom, but it's taped at the top. Like there's no separation at the top from the matting in the picture, but there is everywhere else. And I'm wondering why this picture is so far away from the matting on the bottom, but it's not at the top. And then the image itself. And by the way, then you have a very thin black border and the off-white white matting. On a wall that might look good, but I don't think you'd use a black frame if you were hanging this on a wall. If you're going to create something that looks so like a picture on a wall with a triple or a double matte, or in this case, there's a yellow in there too, so a quadruple matte maybe, and you're going to frame it, put a frame that makes sense. And I don't think anybody would choose a pure black frame for this on a wall. I'm saying that because you made it so wall-like. The picture inside is just overcooked. I understand that you're going for this ethereal type of look on this flower, but you know, the bottom right bud is super clear, but then all around it, including the stem that's on the same focal plane, is hazy. It's disjointed. So commit to it and either go with something or not, and be careful not to cross that line, because the stamens are way sharp and nothing else in the image is. And it's too much. It's not natural. So I'm at a 75.
Thank you. Still in the photographic artist category, Sling Softball. Sling Softball. Score is 84. Wayne.
I'm going to challenge so that you know.
Yeah, I want to challenge too.
Okay, do you want to just start with the challenge, and Dwayne, you'll have a chance to make your comments?
Let's start with the challenge and we'll go
Okay.
from there.
Steve started the challenge, so Steve, you can be the keeper of the challenge.
The keeper of the bearer of the challenge. Other than the warning sling property sign, which does not match, it doesn't fit the chain link, and the lighting is wrong, and the 3D-ness of it is wrong. It looks like a two-dimensional piece of artwork slapped into this. Other than that, this is really well done. To the maker, yes. More of this, please. The compositing is great. The pieces are put together great. I've seen so many of these, youth baseball card poster type things where they want their work to overshadow the player. This, if I was a parent, my player is front and center. And it's a great portrait. The skin isn't overcooked. One that was earlier that I didn't comment on, there was a lot of stuff happening in the facial skin. This one is really well done. The lighting on the player is right. I wish the player had a facial expression. That would be great. But other than that, she is the subject. And your work falls in the background, but falls in the background beautifully. I'm at an 85, and I think this is deserving of at least an 85.
Lisa?
Yeah, I scored this at an 87. I would agree with that warning sling property sign. If that was just gone, that would be great. I love the expression on her face, because this is a girl's game face. She came to win, she came to play, and she is going to give the players a run for their money. I think she's perfectly positioned in this image. I think I just think everything about it is great. If I was going to make one improvement on this, there's some kind of I think it's the buckle, or what do you call it? The belt part, on the right-hand side by her arm that is just showing on her arm. I might just trim that off, because you don't see enough of it to, truly get an idea of what it is. But I scored it at an 87, and I think it's definitely well deserving of a merit, more than a merit.
Okay, I scored this an 80, and I really, really want to love this. So the girl's posing, fantastic. She's not shot straight on. She's got good curve to her. If I wanted to be nitpicky about the posing, her camera left arm could be bent instead of straight. I'm not going to take points away for that in the composite because this is about the artwork. So I would love to hear when Steve gets his rebuttal. Why is the building on the left properly bokeh'd, but the building on the right is tack sharp all the way through? That's pulling my attention away from the girl and even pulling me away from the sling sign, which I fully agree with. The lights that were attached to the building, okay, they're bright. That pulls me away from the girl into the lights, which then brings a comparison into the size of the lights with the size of the buildings. And I don't believe that those lights are 5 times larger in reality than what the building would imply they are. The scale of the lights is just wrong to match the background. Again, pulling me out of the actual composite. Don't get me wrong, mom and dad are going to love this, but an image competition and a composite here, those lights don't make sense. The haloing of the light on the right does not match the directions of the light on the left. When you look at the white fog line, the white cloud that's coming off of the light, that should be an upside down ice cream cone. It doesn't make sense as to why it's coming down at such an angle other than trying to make up for the lack of balance that is happening because the light is out of position. I love the dust coming up off of the ground. It blends in wonderfully. But overall, the way that this girl was dropped in on top of the rest of the image is so sharp. It's either over processed or when it was cut out from green screen, however it was originally shot, the maker could have used a 1 to 2 point softening on the cutout so she doesn't look cut out to me. And I'm talking specifically around her shirt and her hairline. It looks like it's just been pieced together to me. That's why I scored this an 80. It's a wonderful image. Mom and dad are going to love it, but technically it can be stronger.
Steve, you're
Okay. So I'll kind of address your points in order of ease. So first of all, with the light, if you look at the light on the left, the bulb actually in the housing of the light is at an angle. So it makes sense that the left-hand side of that cone is more straight down and the right-hand side is coming more towards her. And while it's less, I do feel like, and maybe it's just me wanting to defend it, I do feel like the bulb doesn't look like it's straight in the housing. Secondly, the fact of their size. Yeah, they're big. This is artistic, right? This is not meant to recreate realism at all. The odds of her standing in a foggy ground where her legs got lost with a chain link fence that had no poles are nil. It is fantasy. This is the third planet from, a Star Trek base. I'm okay with that. The assembly though is pretty good. Again, the fence and the sign, they don't match well. I almost think it would be better without the fence and the sign.
Agreed.
And without that, I'd go above an 85. But I think what you did here for what, look, it's not up to me to tell the maker what they're supposed to make. I'm supposed to tell the maker how they can make what they choose to make better. So this isn't my image to say, look, take the fence out and I'd give it more. It would be stronger to me if it was. But if this is what you want to do, you executed it pretty good. You didn't execute it at a 90, but you executed it pretty good. The one thing that I wish you hadn't said is the building on the right is sharp and the building on the left is not. And my answer to that in this scenario is going to be because it is. So if you would do me a favor and put your hand over that side as you raise your score, I'd be okay with it.
Okay, if you guys could please rescore.
What about?
And the score remains an 84. The final image in the photographic artist category is Broncos football. Broncos football. And the score is 80. And let's see, we'll give this, Wayne, you can have this one.
I scored this an 82. The posing is what held me back. The gentleman holding the sledgehammer isn't just static, but he's leaning backwards. So that shows a sign of fear instead of aggression, as you would expect out of a football player. When it first came up, it felt a little bit tight. I'm actually okay with that because I can see this as being a stand-up sign that you would see at a game or a banner image versus a standalone composite part of a series. The compositing, again, is wonderful with the blending of the smoke at the bottom coming up. The way he's holding the sledgehammer actually makes sense as to why, trying to show power dominance. As an art piece, it's very solid. So that's why I scored it an 82.
Thank you. In the photographic artist category, we have one image for review. An original score of 78, Moonlit Lonely Tree. Moonlit Lonely Tree. And it remains the same. We're now going into the regular division photojournalism category. First image in photojournalism is A Stroll by the Kelpies. A Stroll by the Kelpies.
So repeat the category again, Kim.
This is photojournalism. Score is an 80, Lisa.
Okay, well, I like this image. I think that it, it has, I like the black and white nature of it. I think that works in this case. Doesn't really need to have color. I notice some kind of a key line in that top left corner, more so than right next to the image. So I don't know if that's just an issue on the crop or whether there's really a line, because I don't see it all the way around. And I know it's called a stroll by the Kelpies, but I don't really know that the people are actually doing it. A lot of people are so tiny that I don't know that I really notice them. They're really underplayed, but I'm not really sure. Yeah, what I would do if you take those out, you can't really call it a stroll. I scored it at an 80, just because I believe it's a solid image. Everything is sharp. At least the subject is sharp. So that's why I scored it an 80.
Thank you. Still in the photojournalism category, we have style and heritage. Style and heritage. Score is a 78. Steve.
So I sat here debating, did I want to do a 79 or an 80? And I decided just to give the maker the credit because the title, in all honesty, pulled me into it. So often we hear a title of, Puppy in the Woods, and it's a picture of the woods. Somewhere in there, there's a puppy, but it's like, where's Waldo? This one, I get the style and the heritage. You sold me on your story. However, the matting is just not sufficient here for a competition. Really, honestly, the color's off, presentation is off, all of that. If you want to start really doing competition, you got to really think about your presentation. On the right-hand side of the image, just below center, the asphalt has a weird rectangular anomaly. I would crop that out. If you did, you still wouldn't hit the woman in the back with the bag. You'd crop out one person maybe, but you'd leave the person with the white t-shirt. And I think it would be a cleaner image. The fact that you included the entire sign on the left, fantastic. Love that you did that. And I love that you captured the angle that you did so that I see the smiling guy first, then the young lady, and then more of the heritage with the umbrella and the hat and the outfits. So I like the story that you're telling. I like the processing. It could use a little cleanup.
Thank you. The last image in photojournalism is getting the vapors. Getting the vapors. Score is 79. Dwayne.
I scored this an 80 and I wanted to lean towards the side of the maker because I'm not fully sure of what I'm looking at. Actually, as I look closer, that I would actually, so there's a dust spot that can be easily taken out in the upper left. As I look at the aircraft itself, in this case, the aircraft, in my opinion, could actually be sharper, more defined. What I'm not sure what I'm looking at and why I wanted to lean towards the maker's credit is my lack of knowledge, or if I'm actually looking at a processing error. About a centimeter, close to a half inch behind the wing, there's a vertical line that runs all the way across. I don't think we're breaking the sound barrier. I don't think we're doing anything that physically would cause the streaks, but we are also getting the motion streaks off of the airplane. So I didn't want to miss score and hold back from the maker. I need to point out that extra credit to the maker in this case because the cockpit and the pilot are tack sharp. So let's bring out a little more of the color, fix that vertical or the vertical line. And I think this could easily go up in score.
Thank you. We have 2 images for review in photojournalism. The first is Style and Heritage, which with an original score of 78. Stays the same. And the last is Getting the Vapors with an original score of 79. Stays the same. We are now going into the portrait category in the regular division. Our first image is The Nursery. The Nursery.
What's the category here, Kim?
Portrait. Score is 82. Lisa?
Well, I love the storytelling of this image, the position of the teddy bear, and of course the sleeping baby in the high chair. I love all of that. So I scored it at an 84. I felt like the the baby's outfit sleeper is a soft, just like you would imagine, baby's clothes to be soft. And I thought that their face was sharp and well defined there. I'm not quite sure why there's a lot more space at the top of this presentation. So I don't know that that really needs to be there. I think that that's unnecessary. And I would tone back that bright orange key line. I scored it really at a solid 84. And I also like the background. I just think that it's simple and I think it works for me.
Thank you. Continuing in the portrait category.
Two really quick comments.
Okay.
I would like to see this, have the maker shoot a little bit lower. We're looking down too much on the baby and it makes the perspective of the chair looks like it's going to fall out. Number 2, agreed with what Lisa said. Just because it comes out of camera as an 16 by 24 doesn't mean we can't crop it to a 4 by 5 or that particular ratio. So that would fix the extra space on top.
I think she's also talking about the mat, though. It's top heavy instead of bottom heavy.
Changing the cropping on both would actually fix that. Agreed.
Okay, thank you. Continuing in the portrait category, we have Sally's Ride. Sally's Ride. Score is 77. Steve?
So I'm a 76. And there's a couple of things in here. First of all, go do it again, right? I like your idea here. I really do like your idea here. You got a beautiful model. You have a car that I wish was mine. Your composition and your processing leave some things to be desired. But biggest thing, there is no substitute for good light. This is a portrait. I assume in a portrait that you have complete control over the light. Now, in real life, you may not. You may be photographing for a band, and the band has 5 minutes at 2 o'clock in the afternoon outdoors. You're stuck. That's not this. This is a portrait, and I assume here that you had full control over when you did it. And look at the shadow on that car. Look at the light on the back of her head or on the side of her head. Look at the light on her back. Look at the light on the buildings. The buildings are so bright. They're brighter than the car is. It's the wrong time of day. Go back and do this again at dusk where you get some nice golden hour light. That said, where she is positioned, I don't think is flattering for her. Her hands like this. You probably, I don't know if you can see me, but her hands, together in front of her is not the most comfortable pose. I would have turned her 45 degrees to the car so that you could get a little separation of the arms and the body and really see her. I like that her head is turned. That's great. The window feels odd that it's a back of a car with no lights on. Would have been nice to have the lights on. With reflections in the bumper, would have been nice to take the reflections out of the bumper. And the window down. I would have had the window up. And the biggest thing to me is that license plate. That is a white California license plate. It even has a sticker on it for June and a year, and it says Porsche Riverside. There is no way that to the human eye, that license plate frame looked like that, or that license plate looked like that. You removed the numbers, but instead just darkened everything as well. And what you should have done was leave the license plate frame. Let me see it and make it look like a white piece of paper in it. That I would have believed. So you just didn't sell it. I'm a 76.
Thank you. Continuing in the portrait category, we have Lucy. Lucy. Score is 78. Dwayne.
I scored this a 77. I really, really want to like this photograph. I am sure the owners of Lucy love this photograph. In this case, I don't understand why the matting is both so heavy and then placed off center, meaning that the photograph itself was placed on the lower portion. Lucy is definitely a solid dog, but I don't think she's so heavy that she's actually pulling the entire photograph down. That's kind of the feeling I get. We have a natural light portrait, so good job on that. But she has all of this incredible fur that isn't coming out. It's actually being lost with the edge light that comes around her left across her head. But then as we get along her back, I would think that we're actually overexposed and those highlights may be blown out from what I can see. We've got great catch lights in her eyes, but we are also so far back that we are competing with the definition in what's in the surrounding shrubbery. If you want to make this more pet owner attaching emotional, come right in on Lucy and make her the entire subject, because right now she is between 1/4 and maybe a third of the photograph, if that much. So she's not the dominant subject when the bushes are so much larger on both her right and left sides. That's why I scored 77.
Can I make one comment on the matting, Kim?
Yes, a brief one.
Okay, I'm at a 78. And by the way, when you said matting, I heard the Knights of Knee, just so that everybody knows. When you said shrubbery. The matting, what he said is so perfect. She's not that heavy that she would pull that picture down. Take that outside of this picture. When you're doing matting, you're affecting how a picture is seen. And that's the reason when you go to a gallery, if the matting is not centered, it's going to be heavy on the bottom, not the top, because it doesn't pull the picture down with it. Really, really put attention into your presentations.
Thank you. Continuing in the portrait category, showing my true colors. Showing my true colors. Score is 84. Lisa.
I love this image. I love the colors. I love the impact. I love the sharpness of the face. I think like I can the eyes, everything to me is very well done. I like just the cleverness of all the paint. I just think it's a strong image. I would like to see maybe just a little bit more of a key line around that, just subtle, just to offer a little bit more differentiation between the presentation and the image. But overall, I scored it at an 85, and I think it's a strong image.
Thank you. Next, still in the portrait category, ready for the garden. Ready for the garden. Score is 82. Steve.
You just picked me because I said it because I'm an 82. I love this shot. So I am not a baby photographer. I can't be a baby photographer. I don't want to be a baby photographer, but if I was a baby photographer, this is kind of what I'd want to make. This is really, really cute. I love the use of the pale with that background, with the gray background that's a different shade of gray. The key line, however, is way too obvious. Don't even make it pure white, like really pull that white down, make it thinner or something to that effect. There is one thing in this that kept me from going above an 82 that's confusing me, actually. The baby's face is, if you look at plane of focus, the baby's face is behind the edge of that pale. What the baby's arms are on is in front of the pale. Both of those are in focus. So why isn't the top of the pale in focus? There's something weird with the plane of focus going on here. Now I understand you're shooting down, plane of focus is at an angle, but it's a little bit weird to me, even where the left camera left ear is in focus. There's a little weird to me. I'm sure it's natural. I wish that a little bit of the pale was in focus because it just feels like a baby floating on blur. But this is really, really pretty. Love that the baby is sleeping. Like on the last shot, I had something I was going to say about the white of the eyes. The eyes being closed here, this is serene. Really well done, 82.
Continuing in portrait, we have Pretty in Pink. Pretty in Pink. Score is 77. Wayne.
I hate giving scores of 76. I really do. I want to so love this image. This is another study of a color wheel. The pinks and the yellows and the blues together do not work as a color palette. I would love to see this without the pink flowers. I think her parents are going to love this because the expression on her face is amazing. But her stance, she's straight on with the camera. Most of her body is hidden behind the flowers, so we can't get into the portrait. And I get why the branch is being used to give her a reason to have her hands placed somewhere. But in this case, we have gone to the magician show and the branches are cutting her body into thirds. If she was moved further back towards the tree and turned almost 90 degrees away from camera, where she is leaning backside against the branch and then coming into camera, that's going to show off her profile much more nicely. It will show more of her body without actually truncating it the way it is. I would keep working on this. So we've got issues with posing, color palette. This may be the first time tonight the key line actually works. Those are my comments and why I scored it a 77.
Thank you. Still in the portrait category, we have Fox Nest. Fox Nest. Score is 83. Lisa.
Well, this is a beautiful image with I think it's really great color harmony in the image. I think the key line takes away from the image. It's just very bright, so it keeps drawing me to that, and it's pretty thick. So I would probably use just a really light, like that tan color, maybe kind of a mid-tone of that tan color, and just make it a finer, like 2.3 point key line. But into the image, I think that the baby is sharp. Baby is so comfortable, so peaceful, and I think, I mean, that's a well done, well lit image. I just love the softness, and by softness, I'm not meaning in focus. I'm just meaning that there's just a softness of this baby in this little bundle, and just so peaceful. So anyway, I scored it at an 83, and I really liked the image.
And our last portrait image for the portrait category is creating art. Creating art. Score of 78. Steve.
So I'm a 79, so I'm nice. There we go. Couple of things. First of all, when the title came up, this is what I love about image competitions. When a title comes up first, we judges get a picture in our mind, and it doesn't have to match the title when the picture comes up. Sometimes it's, oh, that's a great play on words. Other times it's, that's exactly what it means. And other times it's, I don't see that title in this picture at all. This title came up and this made complete sense to me. I love it. I love the kick of her left foot. I love the chair or bench being at 45 degrees. I love being able to see what I believe is like a Nagel, like the old Nagel artist face on the purse, the tapestry, the table that's got ink or something on it. The piece of tape at the bottom of the silver leg, camera right, bottom. Wish that was gone. The things that are holding me back from giving this a merit are things that you had control of as a portrait. Behind her, that whole back area is way too bright. That needed to be brought down, either in post or better yet, somehow, whether you scrimmed it or something in camera, that needed to be brought down so that she was brighter than everything behind her. Secondly, your lines aren't straight. So you, on the right-hand side, the shelf that has all the art supplies is closer to the edge at the top than it is at the bottom. And on the left-hand side, same thing. That white wall is closer at the top than it is at the bottom. And there's a little bag down there at the bottom. Move the bag. This is a portrait. This is not photojournalism. So this isn't editorial. It's a portrait. Whatever that is in the bottom left corner there, move it out of the way, square this image up, and it would be stronger immediately. And last but not least is her head position. I love that her eyes are looking straight at me. But if you look close at her eyes, I see, for example, the eye closest to us, her left eye. I see a huge amount of white of the eye, more than I see of her iris, on the left of the iris. On the right of the iris, I see almost no white of the eye. If you had simply had her actually turn her chin just a hair towards camera so that her eyes moved more middle, the white of the eye would be more balanced and it would be more pleasing. If you look at the far eye, I only see white of the eye left and I almost don't see any iris. It's buried in the corner of the eye. If those were a little bit more balanced on the white of the eye, this immediately would be a much better portrait. Really great concept here. I would do it again if you could, with a couple of changes. 79.
Thank you. We have 2 images for review in the portrait category. The first image for review is a 78, is Lucy. Remains the same. And the second image for review in the portrait category is Creating Art, original score of 78. Also remains the same. We have 1 image left. It's in the wedding category, Newlywed. Newlywed. Score is 78. Dwayne.
I scored this a 77. So we have an open shade portrait here. The matting is thin all the way around. We've been talking about that all night. The couple is happy, but they're newlyweds. So why does the gentleman have his hand not just in his pocket, but completely buried in his pocket? If you're going to pose somebody with their pockets, you want to see some of the fingers coming out. You want to see the hand comfortably positioned. But if you are celebrating a wedding, this is going to immediately become a much stronger portrait if his hand is touching her instead of avoiding her. Again, she is posed nicely. Having him scoot a little more to the left is going to close the large distance between their heads. I am assuming the location has meaning to them. But again, they are taking up not even a quarter of the overall portrait in this case. So I kind of wonder if the portrait is about them or if it is about the location. And being in wedding portraiture, there's a number of things that could have been done to the grass to even it out, which would have stopped taking away my attention from the couple and trying to figure out what's going on throughout the grass. So spend a little bit of time retouching the grass, so we can focus on them. And then finally, even just adding a vignette over the couple so they become the brightest point of the photograph, and we are brought in to enjoy them and not the overall surroundings. So that's why I scored it as I did.
Thank you. That concludes the, there is one image for review in the wedding category. Newly wed. And the image stays the same.
Kim, can I say something on this image just really fast?
Sure.
This is one of those ones also where if you were to square this image up, it would be immediately stronger. You have that big dark spot on the left-hand side. You could crop that out. And if you look at that weird thing at the top of the image, it's not doing anything for you. Crop down below that, use the lines of those courses of block and skew this properly using perspective tools to bring that right side towards you a little bit. This would be immediately become a stronger image as well. I was a 77 on this.
Thank you.
Or 78, one of the two.
That concludes our print competition part of the printcompetition.com part of things. We're now going to be going to using Lightroom to have you guys break ties. We have 3 categories that have ties for best of class. So you'll have to break those ties. After that, then we will have you judge for the best of show from the best of class winners.
Stop sharing.
Division landscape category. We have Majestic Vista is the black and white, and Balboa Sunset is next to it. They both have a score of 84.
Please hide the name at the bottom because I can see who shot them.
How can you see the names at the bottom?
Because you're displaying it.
There you go. Okay. What are we doing here? What do we want to pick?
You have to pick the best of class winner for Master Division landscape. These 2 tied with the highest score. So you guys pick which one is your favorite.
I'll start by just saying I want to go with the black and white, but God, I really wish it didn't have all that white around it.
I am leaning towards the black and white, even with the matting. I think technically the capture is a stronger capture compared to the photograph on the right.
I agree.
I'm gonna agree with that too.
Okay, so our winner is the black and white on the
Left.
black and white.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, now you have to pick the best of class winner for Master Division portrait. We have Funny Story on the left and Daydreaming on the right.
I
Funny.
like the funny story on the left. I think I can actually almost see that little boy sort of trying to hold back his laughter, which is why he might look like he's gonna blow a trumpet. But I'm just drawn to that storytelling in that image.
100% that image for me.
I'm with everybody else. Funny story it is.
Regular division landscape category. On the left, we have Dusk to Dawn on Mount Ijen, and on the right, we have Neast Point.
I want to go to the
Decent.
right.
Same.
Same.
Best of class winners from the Master Division. There are 5 images that you're going to see. Of those 5, you can either say this is the winner, or you can selectively say get rid of this one, and narrow down till we have the last one standing as the winner.
Oh, this is going to be interesting.
Oh boy.
I know what I as soon as they came up, I know what my fave is.
I think I know what my favorite is.
Dwayne?
Yeah, I know what my number 1 and 2 are.
Okay,
Say
so
one, two, three.
my number 1 is the upper left corner of the room. And my number 2 would probably be the Jets. Nah, actually, probably it might be the black and white. I'd have to debate that.
My number 1 would be the black and white. Number 2 would be the Jets.
Well, my number 1 are the Jets, and my number 2 is the room.
Okay, so we can get rid
So-
of the 2 on the bottom, right?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Mhm.
Oh, I don't want to do that. I just need to go away from here. Oh, no.
They're
Uh-oh.
gone now.
Hold
They're
on.
gone now.
Oops. I don't know why that did that.
We'll Photoshop them back in.
Yeah, we may have to, because I think I may have just totally nuked them.
You did.
You should be able to go to edit and undo.
I did undo, so now let me see if I've got them marked appropriately. Hold on. Oops. Nope, they're still not there. Hold on.
So what's the whiskey that you
There we
got
go.
going?
Nothing overly exciting tonight's Oban.
Oh, we were just in Oban.
Really?
Did a tour. They have 6 employees at that distillery.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was great.
I also have a bottle of Red Dot that a friend of mine brought from Ireland a couple months ago.
I love the red
Okay.
dot. I just bought a blue spot.
We're down to our 3 now.
Okay.
So let me talk a moment about the architectural shot. We're talking about best of show. And if we're going to give best of show, I kind of have an issue because of the shadow that Steve pointed out on the right-hand side. The camera is close, but it is too high. And the spot that I pointed out between the chair and the ottoman is a distraction. And they weren't quite centered in the room. So that bottom line where the floor and the bookcase come together isn't straight. That's what holds me back on that particular photograph and why I lean to the other 2.
For me, the spot you pointed out matters. The line at the bottom could be that baseboard isn't straight, that it's a 1960s house with a crooked baseboard and a crooked floor. The shadow, and for me, the half of a bookcase shelf at the top bugs me, but it's such a clean shot. It's so well exposed, and the using the walls as leading lines, that's not often done when you shoot a back wall straight, so that these walls give you leading lines and the lines are true. I got to give them credit. It's really, and putting the yarn ball there. There's a lot in this image, even the way they turned the pillow. There was a lot of attention to detail on accoutrement. The jet shot is a jet shot. Look, it's a great jet shot. Like it's really well executed, but it's a jet shot. And my guess is there's a lot of people who got that shot. Maybe not as good though. It is really well executed. The landscape shot, it's got lightning in it, but there are some issues in it. I'm probably leaning black and white and room to me. That's me.
So
Like I could probably
leaning-
remove the jets.
I'm really leaning towards the Jets because I think while other people might have gotten that shot, I think few people would have gotten that shot as sharp as that is.
True.
And you know, just with all the smoke and the alignment, that you got to be quick on the trigger to get that shot. So I think that is still my first. And I still think I'm leaning towards the room as my second.
Where are you at, Dwayne?
I am really having a problem with the room. Yes, it was shot greatly, but even if the floorboards are crooked, the whole rationale behind architectural photography and one of the most basic rules is straighten the lines. There's nothing in post that
Right.
that would say let it go.
I'm okay with going to removing the room and using just the jets in the black and white. If you both want to do that, that's fine with me.
Mhm. I'm good with that.
And the other thing that I was going to toss out about the jets in the black and white, yeah, okay, we've been bitching about the borders all night, but at least they chose to do it that way instead of an oversight.
They put attention into those borders. I mean, those are, Kim, can you remove the room?
I can try. There, I was more successful this time.
I mean, they put a ton of time. I'm guessing it's the same creator. They put a ton of time into that matting. It looks really real. And, you know, now that I see it like this, if I were to pick based on the two shots, it's tough. These are both super, super strong. Like, I'm nitpicking on some things. But I actually like, from a presentation point of view, the upper left corner of that black and white gives me that float feel. And I actually kind of dig it. Like, I can picture pieces of foam behind it to push it out. I'm probably going black and white, but I'll be honest with you, I could go with either one of these two. They both deserve it.
Well, they can't both win, so you have to pick one.
Or I
Lisa?
wait and see what the other two say.
For me, I'm still with that, the jet shot. I just know from a technical standpoint how difficult that shot is to get, because I've tried on numerous occasions and mine are never that sharp. So I think there's a level of complexity with that you don't, that I think just elevates it, because it is so sharp. That's me.
Dwayne?
I'm going to follow Lisa for the fact that as much as I love the black and white, as much as I would love to be able to play with a Pluto trigger, I think the jet shot is technically more challenging, and giving credit to the maker for getting what is quite possibly the world's smallest lightning bolt. We had to look for it to find it, so I can't weigh my decision based on the lightning bolt. I'm going to lean towards the aircraft.
I'm totally fine with the aircraft. And for me, if I go aircraft, it's partially because the maker knew how to finish it. The crop is spot on from a landscape, you know, or from a panoramic point of view. So many people would have done this as a 4-3. They understood what their subject was. They brought you to the subject. I'm good with the jets.
Okay.
Meanwhile, I can hear the maker in the back of the room calling us all names.
Well, my guess, I would imagine that it could be the same maker, just because there's a very similar
Border.
and presentation.
Have the regular division best of class winners up. So if you want to start either eliminating or pick your favorite one right off the top, however you want to eliminate down, but you have to pick out of these 6 wonderful images, you have to pick one.
I would posit that the 2 on the left and the bottom middle could go away. Anybody disagree?
The bottom middle, I would agree that can go. You said the 2
On the left.
top on the left.
Top and bottom on the left.
Oh,
girl in the
top
cemetery.
and bottom. Yeah, I could go with that. Yep.
Dwayne, you okay with that?
Yeah, I definitely have a favorite for 1 and 2.
What's your favorite?
I love the Ireland shot and I love the color pop portrait.
So I love the Ireland shot. I love the color portrait. It would be probably between those two to me. To me, the bird could probably go too. Do you agree, Lisa?
I agree.
Here's my problem with the color pop. I didn't get to talk on that one, but
Wait,
this
wait,
was the one I was to talk.
Real quick,
I'll go.
can I get rid of the bird?
Yep.
Yep.
That
The
was the
color
most
pop-
respectful bird the judges have gotten all night.
Yeah, exactly. The color pop shot, the fact that her head, like on the right of her, she blends in with the background, with the map. So then why is her head cut off? Like there needs to be a key line to separate where the edge is on the right and above her head and on the left. Also, this was the one I was talking about where there's no catch light in camera right eye, her left eye. There's a little teeny bit at the top on her right eye, camera left eye, and both eyes are so turned in that
Mhm.
that camera close eye on camera left is buried into the corner of her eye. Really, this is a bunch of color and a bunch of the white of the eye. And had the camera moved just a hair this way to where she stayed, but her eyes followed, I'd see fully around the iris. And that would make that way stronger. Those two things make me go with the lighthouse.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think there's a positioning of her eyes that that is off, and then I think technically that the other picture stands out more, the picture on the left.
I
But
can
that
go.
color-
I can go with the Ireland shot.
Good for me. But that color one, to the maker, if you're listening, that color one is awesome.
Mhm.
You just little things.
Steve, I do want to talk about the color shot for a minute. The light is up too high.
Yes, that's why she's got
Um,
no catch light.
Correct. However, double check the calibration of your monitor, which I'm sure you do all the time, because her head is cut off on purpose and you can see part of her ear. You can see her neckline. I think the lighting was done.
No, that's my point. I'm saying that. What I'm saying is left and right, the part from here blends into the background. At which point there is no definition of where the matting left and right start or end.
Mhm.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're
Posing
going to
placement
now
of a
announce
chip
our
is-
winners. Judges, I'm just gonna cut you off for just a minute so that we can get things wrapped up because we are going a little bit long.
Sorry.
You can have your show back, Kim.
We'll just edit it later. The
Fix it in post.
image comp winners for tonight are in the Master Division commercial category. A Quiet Place is Craig Stampley. In the Masters Division illustrative is Elegance, Bruce Benet, and it's also our best of show. Congratulations, Bruce.
Good job, Bruce.
He is here, so you might hear his comments later about which of his pictures he would have picked. The Master Landscape, Majestic Vista, is also Bruce Benet. Congratulations, Bruce.
Very good job.
In the Masters Division Nature, Preparing for Landing, also Bruce Benet. Congratulations. And in the Master Division Portrait, we have A Funny Story, and that is Erica Tinoco. Congratulations, Erica. Okay, good. You don't have the green line I'm getting on my computer. In the regular division, in the illustrative category, our best of class winner is Old Souls Stand Guard in the Mist. Congratulations, Annette Gregory. In the Master Division Landscape category, we have Neast Point for best of class and also best of show. And again, congratulations, Annette Gregory. Woohoo. In our Nature Division, we have Perched for best of class. Congratulations to Brad Toms.
Hey.
In our photographic artist category, we have, let me read the Sling Softball, and that is Megan Plock. Congratulations, Megan. And in the photojournalism category, we have Best of Class winner, A Stroll by the Kelpies. Congratulations again to Annette Gregory. And in the portrait, our Best of Class winner is Showing My True Colors. Congratulations, Jim DeLue. So congratulations to all of our winners. Thank you, judges, for all of your time and all of your comments. I appreciate it. We all appreciate all of your comments. Some of them might sting a little bit tonight, but we'll learn from them later. You have them.